When I was a young man, my mid-teens, I got into an altercation with my brother. Now, I have the disposition of my mother, which I'm usually pretty calm, collected, rational, logical. My brother, at the time, would fly off the handle at a moment's notice. Now, me and my brother had a very antagonistic relationship, and I didn't rock with him like that. He's 2 years younger than I am. And it just so happened we got into it for something which it doesn't even matter. I don't remember, but at this point it really doesn't even matter. And he screamed that he was going to kill me. Now, my brother being emotional and irrational and flying off the handle was nothing new to me. However, this time, he went and grabbed a butcher knife. Now, me and my brother both had been taking martial arts since we were young, so him grabbing a knife didn't really mean shit to me. As a matter of fact, the more that I prevented him from stabbing his brother to death, frustrated him and angered him even more. So his rage went from 10 to 20. And then he came back with one of my father's swords. Same thing happened. You're not gonna stab me with a sword? Is you out your rabbit ass mind? So me stopping him from stabbing and killing his only brother to death pissed him off even more. And it went from 20 to 100. So I just went in my room and locked the door. I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. So then my brother takes the sword, another sword, and the butcher knives and proceeds to hack his way through my door like some The Shining, here's Johnny type shit. Even though it was my brother, and at this point it is easy to say that I was being physically threatened and I could have feared for my life. I could have, I didn't, but I could have. A lot of people, the few people that have heard that story, always praise my restraint. The question for me is always, if I had done something to my brother, what does that say about me? Whatever it says about him, that's a question that he'll have to answer later in his life, and maybe he's already answered it. But what would that say about me? Could I still be considered a good man if I harmed him? Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steed, Noob from the Ville, and we're here to talk about Season 8. God, it's crazy. Season 8, Episode 2 of Doctor Who, Into the Dalek. We are treated to a space battle at the beginning, some Daleks chasing a spaceship. There are two people on board. The male companion, he looks like he's been killed. The female's flying the ship. The Dalek ship is about to blow the smaller ship to smithereens. And next thing you know, the female companion wakes up on board the TARDIS. The Doctor has saved her. She keeps demanding with a gun in his face to take her back to her peoples. And he's like, yeah, I don't get down like that. You know what I'm saying? You best chill, my girl. Anyway, he takes her back to her ship. Come to find out, they're thankful. Thank you for bringing us back. Now throw his ass in jail. How you get on this ship? Like, we don't play that. You a spy? You might be a Dalek. Come to find out, when the woman, her name is Journey, she says, he's a doctor, and we're in need of a doctor, aren't we? They take the Doctor down to a holding area in the medical bay, where there is a Dalek chained up in need of medical attention, because once they start trying to figure out, take it apart and see what makes it tick, they found out it was a living organism in it. The doctor freaks out. He loses it. He's like, oh, hell no. There's no such thing as, why? Let it die. Let it die. It's a Dalek. They want to destroy everyone. They are irreversibly evil. The Dalek starts talking about, no, I got to destroy all the other Daleks. The doctor's like, what you say? The Dalek says that in the battle that we saw, where a good man goes to war, the Dalek saw the birth of a star. And somehow he was damaged, and it changed the way that he thought. He no longer thought about destroying all humans. He thought about destroying the Daleks because they were just bringing death and destruction to the universe. So the people are like, hey, if we get a good Dalek, maybe that could change things. The doctor goes back to Earth to get Clara. And he tells the people, I get Clara because she is the one who cares about stuff, so I don't have to. Which is crazy because the doctor being the doctor, and he's always on a mission to set out and save people and do that, it seems that he cares. But the way in which he cares is maybe what he's talking about. Now, Clara was at work. She looks like she's at a new spot, a new school, and she's getting rizzed up by a beige little fellow named Danny Pink. And Danny Pink is a ex-soldier. Seems that he's spent some time in the shit, and he might have had to murk a few people. Looks like Danny might have some bodies, maybe in the army, maybe before he even got in the army. But anyway, he was a soldier. He don't like to talk about it. He don't want to talk about that part of his past. I get it. So the doctor goes to get Clara, and they do something I haven't seen since a long time ago. There was a movie called Inner Space with, I want to say maybe Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid, Rick Moranis, maybe. I don't know. But where you get shrunk down to a miniature size, and they were in like a submarine in the movie. And they went inside of a person to fix something with inside of a person. And so, same premise, they shrink, they put some people, some soldiers, Clara and the doctor, inside of a mini capsule, and they shrink it down and put it inside the Dalek to go in and see if they can figure out what's making the Dalek a good Dalek. The problem is it's a radiation leak. They fix the problem, but that reboots the Dalek to think in the way that he thought before. Now we got to exterminate all the humans. The doctor's like, well, tried to told you. Ain't no such thing as a good Dalek. Clara went off on the doctor. And she was like, what did we learn? The Dalek had the capacity to learn. He had the capacity to be better. If he could be better, then they all can be better. The doctor finally listened, and he figured out a way to turn back on kind of the radiation, turn back on the part of the brain in the Dalek that made it see these extra things. They saved the Dalek. The Dalek, even though he had called, once he got rebooted, he called the Daleks to come finish off the humans. But then when he started seeing again and started feeling again, he sent out a retreat saying that the humans had already self-destructed and there was no need for them to come over there. Problem was, in the last moments, right before all that, the doctor inserted himself into the memories of the Dalek. And the Dalek was seeing all the good stuff he saw before, but then he could see into the doctor's mind too. And he could see the doctor's inherent hatred of the Daleks. And that started to change him because that was inadvertent. That's not what the doctor wanted to see. And in that moment, he didn't know that he was harboring, that he was carrying that much hatred with him. All in all, this was a very good episode, and it really makes you think about the inner turmoil that we all face. And how do you really know if you're a good man. You know that I love my quotes. And even this quote is not actually said by my pastor, Timothy E. Finley Jr. It is something that he says often, and is actually, I'm going to paraphrase a part of scripture, and he says it all the time in relation to the scripture. And it is, a tree is known by its fruit, a man by his deeds. And what that means is that you can judge someone's character by the actions that they take in life, the same way that you would be able to identify a tree by its fruit. The other quote that I have is by John Bradshaw. He says, I define a good person by somebody who is fully conscious of their own limitations. They know their strengths, but they also know their shadow. They know their weaknesses. In other words, they understand that there's no good without bad. Good and evil are really one, but we've broken them up in our consciousness. We polarize them. I like both of these quotes. I particularly like the one that I've heard my pastor say 100 times, that you know people by their fruit. But the second quote, there is no good without evil. You have to know evil. You have to know bad in order to recognize good. Early in this episode, the Doctor, when contemplating whether he should go inside the Dalek, go save a Dalek, an enemy that he's been fighting all of his life, an enemy that led him to his lowest point, the Time War and the destruction of Gallifrey. He asked Clara, am I a good man? And she said, I don't know. Because she hasn't been with him long. She's been with him and she can see the goodness in him, but I'm sure that she can see the darkness within him, in him as well. And ultimately, that's a question you have to ask yourself. Are you a good person? What makes you a good person? There are so many people that I see on the job, at church, around kids, who are not good people. Now, it's not for me to say whether they're good or bad. We all make judgments. And you could be judging on half the story. You may not know what's going on with that person at all. But all you have to go off of are their actions, not their words. You have to make your determination based on the fruit that they show. This episode is an excellent episode when you start thinking about the inner turmoil that you may have with your own morality. When you start thinking about the inner turmoil you may have with your own morality. As I look back over my own life, I can see moments where I don't consider myself being a good guy, a good person. The sad thing is, much like Danny Pink, much like the Doctor, many of those moments coincide with my military service. Many. To know if you're a good person, you have to consider if you consistently demonstrate traits like kindness, empathy, honesty, responsibility, generosity, and a willingness to help others. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have all of these and that's the only way that you can be considered a good person. But in general, you should have all of those. And if you don't, if you're weak in a few areas, those are areas for you to improve. Essentially, if you treat people with respect and consider the impact of your actions on others, while also reflecting on your own intentions and striving to do the right thing, then generally you should be considered a good person. All of those are hard areas to look at, and sometimes especially to be self-reflective and look at yourself. And I'm not going to go into the meaning of what each one of those are. No one can really answer the question for you, are you a good person? But you can't even begin to answer the question if you can't acknowledge that darkness within you. Every person has a propensity to do good or to do bad. The choices that you make are what define, what determine who you are, what you are. It's more than you just saying you're a good person or wanting to be a good person. Do your actions show that you're a good person? More importantly, do your actions show that you're a good person when no one is watching? When there's no camera, when it's not being filmed for social media, when no one can give you a pat on the back and tell you your kudos? Do you still do the right thing? Are you still a good person in that instance? Drop me some comments. Let me know. This is Rakai Steed, new from the Ville. Make sure that you like, comment, and share this as much as possible. And if for some reason you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Remember, at the end of the day, you have to use this. But if anything about this particular episode has taught you, you gotta use this.